of the night, gleaming from the moisture.
Yeah. So he's actually, and there are cases. There's a case in Wichita with a BTK killer who really got away with it, and he could have gone off to pasture and died having never been caught, although they were still looking for him. But he actually started taunting the police, and that's what led them to him, because of his taunts, not because of the murders.
Is that the guy that fell off a plane or something? No, that's not the same guy.
This is a church. He was actually way up there in a church.
Yeah, and the whole town was a surprise.
Dennis
I
Rader.
saw him talk. He talked like
Yep.
he wanted to tell every detail of everybody he killed, how he killed them.
Yep.
And to him, it was just no. And he was, what was he?
Dennis Rader. He was way up there in the church, like a church official.
Crazy.
Christian church.
The whole
And he was
town was like, if there's one person who's not a killer, it's got to be him.
God.
Right?
And he was hiding in women's. He would hide in their bedrooms. And
He
wait
had
for
a
them to come
family,
home.
right?
Yeah, he had a family. Yep.
Wife, kids,
Yep.
everything.
Yep. So, and actually, my character's kind of modeled after
Okay.
that, and that whole idea. My guy is working at the Colorado Department of Education and Human Resources. It's been 15 years since he killed, and it's been 15 years since he killed, and so he's just hoping to, ride off into the sunset, having never been caught. So
And he doesn't need to kill anymore?
no,
Then?
he claims he's done. He's finished, and so the other main character is a veteran female television reporter. And at the beginning of the book, she gets involved in this situation with a crime scene where there's hostages being taken, and she's the go-between with the police, and she's being told what to say to this guy, and she thinks she knows best, so she communicates with him, and he ends up killing a hostage. Well, because of
what she did?
Because of what she did. All the bad publicity, they put her off the television. They say, well, we'll take a break here. Let's have you not be on the air for a few weeks while all this dies down. Well, right at that time, there's a brand new serial killer case that looks like our guy, our retired guy, did it, that he's back in action after 15 years. He's furious that there might be a new case that's going to dredge up all these old cases.
Okay. Right.
So he contacts her and says, I'll help you get your job back because I know all the questions to ask about this new case, and you can help me get my reputation back. And
But isn't that admitting?
Well, he reaches out to her all these encrypted messages, and she doesn't believe it's him at first. She's like, "No way, it's you. Go away. You're a troll. You're just And he finds a very convincing way to prove to her that it's him. Okay. And once they establish communication, all encrypted, everything, then the book. That's where the book goes.
Okay. And now you're going to do two more, or you already...
The second one's already out.
Okay.
And then the third one will come.
Okay.
So that's all based in Denver, which is a long way of coming back to your question, that I'd love to write more in this area, for sure.
Yeah. Well, water.
Water.
Yeah.
Water's it.
What a subject.
Water's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Water's it.
Yeah, that'd be a nucleus of the theme, I would think.
I actually started writing a novel set in Cortez right when the first Flynn Martin book sold, and I was about a quarter of the way into it, and there is actually thinking about it right now, there is a water related thing to it, but I had to put it aside because I got this nice contract to write these books.
Sure.
Can't only write so
Can I
much.
ask you about the...
How much do you make?
I was going to ask about the book. I can't remember the name
Is
of
it
it.
going to be worth my while?
Fireball?
Fireballer. That came in the middle, yeah.
Okay.
So that
how does that... Is that a completely take off somewhere else because you felt like it? Is it connected to any of the other books?
It's unconnected.
Okay.
It's disconnected. Really strange story, at least to me. So the agent who still has me now, been about 10 years, he picked me up on No Lie Lasts Forever. He said, this is good, I'll be able to sell this. 6 months after kind of making some changes to it, a friend and I were talking about this idea for a baseball novel. And I called Josh, I told him the idea. He said, I love that idea so much, we're going to wait on No Lie Lasts Forever. We'll just put that on the shelf. Wow. He said, go write that book.
Before you even wrote it?
Before I even wrote a word.
Awesome.
So I spent a couple years writing that, and then we were ready to go out to market in February of 2020 which was 1 month before
Yeah, it
everything
really
changed.
hit,
Yeah.
The
So
fun,
then it took
yeah.
almost 2 years to sell, took another year to come out, and the agent who bought it didn't really want to read any crime fiction of mine. So I actually, in the meantime, wrote another book which is set in the world of rock and roll. Sent that in, and the editor, Josh, liked the rock and roll novel better than the Fireballer. And then the editor who asked for that, she got promoted and was no longer buying books. The editor who replaced her didn't like the rock and roll book, but she said to Josh,
Like the baseball.
does Mark have any crime fiction lying around? So Josh said, yeah, he's got no lie. And that was like 9 years later.
Wow.
And in it goes, and it sold.
Timing.
Sold like in a minute.
Everything.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Fireball is completely non-crime fiction. It's just a character-based story set in the world of baseball. So yeah. Yep. It's I mean, when you think back about all the different just ups and downs, the yo-yo you're talking about, I mean, you just get, it's a roller
insane,
coaster.
man.
You
Yeah.
just get used to the
You gotta be
ride.
so tough with those things. I have a question for you. Well, obviously, that's what we're here. Editors. So editors are the big machine that actually eventually publish the book and all that. But the actual editors, like the people that will grab your book at the end and make sure everything is okay.
Right.
Like, how much of that have you experienced? Do you know how much those people do or don't do or are allowed to do?
With the current publisher for the Fireballer and the Flynn Martin series, they're basically sister organizations that have the same process, and the editing process they put you through is a gauntlet. It's incredible. So they have 3 rounds of what's called 3 rounds of developmental editing, which is just the story, the concepts, the overall shape of your story. It's not so much about typos and word spelling. This is all big picture stuff. Like, can you strengthen this? Can you tighten that? Can you make it move faster here? What if you had this character do this instead of that character do that?
That's a lot of involvement on your story.
They have their hands
oh my gosh,
dirty
I didn't
with your story.
realize.
And the guy I've worked with on the first 2 Flynn Martin books is phenomenal. I've never met him. He's back in New Jersey.
Yeah,
His name is Kevin Smith.
Never
He's
met him,
just incredibly, he sees what I'm trying to do and he makes it better. Then after 3 rounds of developmental editing, then it goes into 3 rounds of copy editing, which is just catching all those typos and the things that James Taylor catches. You gotta catch those things. Like if your character has blue eyes on page 20, but you said she has brown eyes on page 80, you got to fix that. So
the first time Misty read my first draft or my whatever draft, and she wanted to read it because her husband had written 8 books, so she had a little bit of experience, right? And she came back within a few weeks. She said, "You killed the character twice." It was somebody I forgot I killed already, and I brought him back later.
I'm gonna kill you again.
So of course I had to fix that. But things like that,
Well,
a friend was sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say these guys that jump around in time. A lot of times that time.
That was what got me.
Gets in trouble if you're not going in, a regular timeline, and you're jumping all over. Sometimes I'm going, wait a minute, and these are some people that should know better.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't happen too much. Once you have, as you said, some people. That's why they have all these people behind you. Yeah. So that's the next phase.
Three rounds of developmental editing, 3 rounds of copy editing, and you're given like a week to. They send you the changes, and you have to say yes or no to everything. Okay. And then they give it to the 7th round is cold read, somebody who has no experience with the book, and they just read it from front to back and
give their thoughts.
Give their
like
thoughts,
an actual read.
Yeah. So it's 7 rounds of It's incredible.
And do they have a time frame usually for those? It's a few months.
When they buy the book and they say here's a production schedule, and they lay it out like all of that might be a 8-week process, 10-week process. So it's pretty intense.
Have you ever said no to something that was suggested and you're like, I'm not changing that, I believe in that?
I push back once out of every 100 ideas, maybe. I really think these people are good at what they do.
Right.
And I love input. I just think it makes it better.
Sure.
And if they have a good reason and they're tripping up, or if they're, it's a little foggy, something's not clear, if they can make it better, why not?
Yeah. Sure.
But I occasionally
So you haven't run into a thing where you disagree that you didn't think it was going to be better.
No.
You just thought, okay.
These people are pros.
Yeah.
They're
Right,
professionals.
sure.
It's be like,
Well, but even professionals can.
Right.
When it comes to art,
right?
And to me, writing, songwriting, all writing, book, painting, all that is it's kind of subject. It's like, well, some people like a dot in a painting and they're happy with that. Others they want, So it's all kind of.
I try not to get too precious about it. It's still going to be my story.
Right.
These are the little things that just help move it along better.
Yeah. Do you think your style reveals through all these different genres and stuff?
That's a great question. Yeah. I know my style has changed from those early Alison Coyle books. Mm-hmm. I probably wouldn't write them quite the same way. I think they're okay, but your style does evolve.
Yeah, what they call it the voice, right?
Yeah, the voice, your narrative voice. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It just changes.
Yeah, for writers.
Yeah,
that's what I read.
You writers.
Yeah.
I'm a reader.
We need readers.
Yeah, we do. We
need a reader or two out there.
Well, there's no book. There's not one book that's ever been written that is for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, once you realize...
Hemingway, I've tried. Yeah. I'm sorry. I
know. That's another one. That's another guy I'm going...
Yeah.
No, I think he's great, but it's just not. I can't get into it.
So exactly, and so once you get over that, once you realize that, then you're kind of free to write what you want to write. Some people will love your stuff, and you'll immediately have the did not finish. Read 3 pages, can't stand this guy.
Right.
I'm out of here.
Yeah. And I've definitely picked up books like that, and I'm going. This is a book that people are recommending, and I'm giving them 2 or 3 chapters and go, this is garbage.
Life's too short. Life's too short.
Yeah. Do you have some favorite writers? Some people that you not idolize, but just kind of like that's the kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Hemingway and Stephen King.
Exactly. Oh boy, there's a guy named James Salas. I'm a huge fan of. He just died last January. Actually, he and I had a little email exchange going. He was a great guy in his mid-80s, very smart. He wrote the book that became the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, and it was a really big thriller.
I remember the name, but I don't. Yeah, sorry.
He's great.
That's a big.
Patricia Highsmith, I love her work. She wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh yeah. Okay.
She wrote Strangers on a Train. Dark psychological kind of thrillers. There's a guy who right now contemporary. His name is Willie Vallotton, and he's written these series of just books about the underprivileged, working class kind of people scraping their way through life. He's my hero because he writes these amazing novels that get tons of great attention, and he started a band called Richmond Fontaine that did great stuff for about 15 years, and now he's in a band called the D-Lines, and they play all over Europe and the United States, and he's got all these novels. He's like my hero.
Awesome.
Yeah, really great. Cool. But I have a ton of books and writers I love.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, just having my biggest problem is I can't read. I fall asleep within a few pages, and I'm incapable of keeping my body just on it. So my reading is very slow because of it, because I never developed it enough. And so my knowledge of writing is terrible on top of everything else because I don't even read enough.
There's only so many hours in a day.
And you have to have a real passion. And to be honest with you, I did it myself just to be able to say, I wrote a book. Because I always wanted to. When I was a kid, I had this story. It was called The Valley of the Giants. And it was the stupidest thing that it was 1 page, and I thought, I have a great story. There was nothing in it. A bunch of guys running around, and they see a giant somewhere in the forest. But the idea, I was a big fan of Stanley.
Earl Stanley Gardner?
No. Clark.
Stanley Clark, the bass
Arthur
player?
C. Clarke.
Arthur.
C.
I know, that's why I'm confused with
Arthur
the
C.
bass player.
Clarke. Yeah,
Arthur.
yeah.
And, especially for things like 2001 and
Right.
Rendezvous with Pharma, whatever. But those are not, they're pretty friendly.
Yeah, sure.
Family-friendly
Yeah,
type
of course.
movies.
Yeah.
And stories. But I always thought, man, this is really cool to come up with. You come up with something that's completely imaginative.
Right.
And imagined, and you find a way, if you can find a way to get one person to listen, to read it and be like, oh my gosh, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Right.
incredible
I agree.
to be able
Yeah.
to do that, So,
I agree. Yeah.
And so you've made a career out of it, man. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
You said that so now that you've got several things going at the same time. Then how do you manage that? Like,
Book-wise?
yeah.
I try to write only one book at a time. So yeah, I mean, it's just
Okay.
yeah. I really can't write 2 books at the same time, but I've got a number
But
of
I thought you
projects.
said there was one you almost had
Yeah.
to put on pause to be able to do another
Yeah.
one. So in a way,
Yeah.
even if you don't do it at the same time, you have to go back
Yeah.
to the other one,
Yeah.
which I find very hard.
Yeah. So when I do go back to that one, I'll have to read it. I'll
Yeah.
have to start
Yeah,
reading it.
that's
What
it,
was
yeah.
going on here
Yeah,
and try to remember.
Start again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you just, I will just get into that headspace of that story. I mean, I remember roughly what I was trying to do, but now it's been 3 years since
Yeah.
I wrote anything with that story. So, and if there's a couple of projects that I still have that if my agent can sell them, it's been so long since I've read them, I go through this whole process, developmental
Especially
editing.
when if they're interested in the style, telling you what you need to do to it,
Yeah.
you better get back into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it won't take that long.
Yeah,
but I
sure.
can ramp
Have you ever had the typical you're in front of a blank page kind of moment?
writer's block.
Have you ever had that?
No, I mean, I hear people talk about it, and I think people who haven't written, they're kind of afraid of that. Kind
Well,
of
they
thing.
show it so much in
Yeah.
stories and movies. It's always the guy is frustrated. I'm writing this book, but
Yeah.
really he's got 2 lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Yeah.
little far-fetched, but
I think what I've learned to do, and it's just me, it's just how I work, is like I'm thinking about what I'm going to write tomorrow basically all day
Oh.
in my subconscious. And
before you actually write.
Yeah, so
stuff.
you
Okay.
when you sit down, you're like thinking about what you need to write, what's happening. You kind of envision the next, whether it's 20 minutes of your story or the next day of your story, that you need to move the story along. You just really kind of live in that moment. So when you do sit down to write, you're writing and not just thinking. You know what I mean?
So it's almost like an actor who gets into a
Yeah,
role, like
yeah.
way in advance, and
Yeah.
they kind of live the
Yeah.
person's.
You're trying to
Almost, yeah.
kind of think about all the senses. What is your character seeing, thinking, feeling, smelling, whatever it might be.
And talking about that, how do you create a character's personality? Like, what do you look at your friends and think, oh yeah, I'm going to make her quirky like this one? Or how do what is the
Yeah, that's
the formula?
Yeah, I don't. Again,
There's no
there's no formula.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
But
I think you draw from people you know and have met, and then you just pull the different things you think you want to bring, including their flaws. The main thing is their flaws. Like, what is going to give them
You can't hide
humanity?
those. No. Yeah.
If they're too perfect, who wants to read about a Boy Scout all day long or Girl Scout?
Yeah.
They want to read about somebody who's fallible and
Right,
makes
sure.
mistakes. And
well,
so-
you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read quite a bit that the idea for a protagonist is really a lot of times the simple formula is the protagonist has a problem, something happens.
Right.
He's got a personality that's personality X, but by going through the journey, that person becomes or overcomes their problem and become better usually.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And if their flaw has a big role in terms of how they need to move through the story, if their flaw presents a hurdle and a real big problem like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's so classic because he's afraid of snakes.
Right.
He can do anything,
but
he's afraid of snakes. So snakes, of course, are going to come back into the story at some point. You want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, sure.
So come up with a flaw, some sort of character. I wouldn't call it deficiency, but just. We all have our things we can or can't do, what we're afraid of.
And humans, we love overcoming things. It's such a great thing to see somebody go from here to there.
Right.
Always, no matter what it is. Yeah.
If you're afraid of heights as your main character, then you better, in the story, make sure they jump out of an airplane. Yeah. You got to make sure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cliche.
And they'll come down and say, "Oh,
yeah." But you just, that's where joining writing groups and looking at character development in your story, you don't want to just spell it all out on the page, like describing a character.
You don't
want
to do show and don't tell, don't tell and don't show.
Exactly, it's got to come naturally through the story. So
yeah.
And then,
have you ever been inspired by somebody, someone, or an event that happened to you or around you that made you think there is a story here, or not?
Wow, that's a great question. I definitely, for the Flynn Martin character, definitely inspired by a certain television reporter who I worked with. I was in television for about 6 years.
Right.
And she did have flaws, and she was, overly, talk about, the way she would treat union people and just who are in the crew, people, her own crew. She was tenacious to a fault, I guess, and overly tough. And so Flynn's a little bit overly driven, and she's going to get what she wants, kind of a thing. And so when I do have to think about her and writing her character, I think of this one television character. She's
rename or remain nameless.
She's passed away.
But she knows.
Yeah.
She's passed away. All right,
but
still.
So she's right there. I don't. One of the reasons I left television news, there were several reasons, but she was one of them. It was just, this is too much. You just don't treat people that way. People you're interviewing, your own crew, your own producer, which I was at
such
the
a
time.
drive that you obliterate everything around you.
But she was a good reporter, so she got what she was after.
Sure.
But does that justify the means?
Personally, I don't think so.
I couldn't live with it.
Apparently you couldn't. Yeah. So. What's what you're working right now on that you're excited about? What's going on right now?
Wrapping up. Literally, I'm in the last 2 chapters of book 3, and that's due soon. And I'm pretty happy with the way it's turned out. And the Flynn Martin series is going to be a trilogy. It's not going to be anything more than that. When she bought No Lie Lasts Forever, she said, "I want 2 more books, no more than that. Just wrap it up at the end of 3 books and we'll move on from there." So this really will finish the whole arc of her story.
And that reminds me of another question. Length-wise, what have you learned as you've been doing these things? But did you make too short, too long? Did you ever run into that? Do some editors are like, they have their own format, or how does?
Well, in my case, I always seem to come in around 100,000 words, which is just
pretty decent.
They always just seem to come in at that length. It's like writing a song.
Right.
3-4 minutes. Do you have any 8-minute songs? If you jam,
it's 11, but that's rare. Like you said, when I was young, it was 3.5 minutes. Crank it and put the right places, the right things, and then for the time But
I have friends who write really long, like 120, and I have other friends who write 70,000 word novels. For some reason, that's just the way. It's almost like
have you run into having to adjust that with some of the books
maybe a couple have come in a bit long, but I tend to kind of know where I am in terms of hitting that mark. I can see it coming together. And then I can always go back and just, if I need to add a little bit or subtract a little bit, it's not that hard to do. So there's a standard for crime fiction. Below 80,000 is too short. generally above 110 or so is going to be kind of iffy.
Kind of heavy.
But there are long form novelists like John Connolly, Tana French, people who have an established career, and people like these longer, thicker books. You can get up to 120, 130. So there's people breaking every rule there is all the time.
I didn't know about that. The reason
Yeah.
I'm asking is, mine was 125,000.
But science fiction,
yeah,
that is different. Science fiction
okay.
has a longer, because they expect the world building.
Well, to be honest with you, that's where the story was.
Yeah.
I didn't count, I
Right.
didn't think
Right.
about it. And then eventually, when we tried to find a publisher, nobody said anything
Yeah.
about that.
Right.
We only got rejected.
Right.
Thank you, but we're not
Right.
looking for this at this time. But as I was waiting, hoping maybe somebody was going to grab this, I started reading a lot about, that it's a break if you do, especially for a first thing. Nobody knows who you are. Stay in the 80,000, 90 tops, And so then I'm like, oh shit, I'm really not helping myself, And I started actually taking things out for a new edition. And then later, Misty read the first part. She's like, it was a good idea, but I really miss some of those things that were early on that were really dragging, but she liked it. So anyway, that's why I'm asking. But
There's no rules. Science fiction does tend to go longer for sure.
Yeah.
And because of that world building, and science fiction fans seem to like it.
Yeah.
Mysteries and crime fiction is like.
And some people read so fast. Nancy, she had read that book, which to me was, it took me years to write. She read it in a week, and
I know. Please.
Where's
take
the
longer.
second one?
You give it to somebody and they say, "Oh, I read that in a day." You're like, "Wait a minute! It took me 5 years to write. Can you just enjoy it a little more?" Yeah,
exactly.
Savor
Take
it.
your time. Just like a good drink. Don't check.
Yeah.
But hey, people are different, and some people are avid readers like you, and I'm sure you can read a book in a flash if you want
I
to.
go through it pretty quick.
Yeah.